हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल द सोलफुल डायरी। आज के वीडियो में हम बात करेंगे फिलिप लार्किन की पोम टोड्स के बारे में। पोएट के बारे में हम पहले एक वीडियो में डिस्कस कर चुके हैं जिसका लिंक डिस्क्रिप्शन में है। चलिए आज पोम को इन डेप्थ डिस्कस करते हैं। चलिए पोम को इन डेप्थ डिस्कस करने से पहले जान लेते हैं उसके कुछ की फीचर्स। टोड्स by Philip Larkin explores the confines of everyday life. Throughout, he uses a frog as a way to depict dual pressures in his life. It is a truly unique animal poem that uses a toad as a symbol of hard work and dedication to a life that doesn't fulfill individual passions. The poet speaks about the struggles one endures in day to day life, especially when one has dedicated themselves to work based solely on monetary gain and not to fulfill their interests. The poem begins with the speaker describing how there is one thing that plagues him more than anything else: a toad. This toad represents work, exterior obligations, and financial pressures. It is always there, forcing poison into his life. Larkin's speaker is curious about what his life would be like and if he would be happier if he were poor. The next stanza depicts the lives of the poorest, those who struggle to find food and shelter. Although Larkin realizes the struggle of a jobless life, he thinks these people are happier than he is. Plus, he states, no one ever actually seems to starve to death. In the next section of the poem, the speaker admits that he is never actually going to make the shift. He is not brave enough to throw off the pensions given to him by the government. This is due mostly to a second toad. This one is present within his body and forces him to keep his job. The combination of these two toads is the entire reason he is unable to change. This is a nine stanza poem. This is a nine stanza that is separated into sets of four lines known as quatrains. These quatrains do not follow a specific pattern of rhyme. Instead, they are isolated moments of perfect and imperfect or slant rhymes. For instance, in the first stanza, the first and third lines are perfect with the CK sound. The second and fourth lines are half consonant rhymes using the F sound. There are numerous examples of both techniques of rhyme throughout toads. In regards to rhythm, Larkin also makes use of different patterns. The stressed and unstressed syllable migrate from the first to second position, and often there are extra syllables at the end of lines. This creates a feeling of unevenness and even discomfort. It connects directly to the subject matter of the poem itself, in which the speaker discusses his own unhappiness and lack of satisfaction with the situation. चलिए पोम को इन डेप्थ डिस्कस करते हैं। Stanza 1. Why should I let the toad work squat on my life? Can't I use my wit as a pitchfork and drive the brute off? In the first stanza of this piece, the speaker begins by asking the reader a rhetorical question. He is expressing his unhappiness with the toad work and how it seems as though he is supposed to let it squat on his life. It is clear from these lines that the toad is not a physical animal. Instead, it is used as a metaphor to represent the pressures of the world and how work and obligations are always there. He goes on to ask a second question. Larkin's speaker has an idea that he should be able to use his wit with a pitchfork and drive the brute off. This makes clear the frustration he feels, as if there is a possibility that this world could change, but he doesn't quite know how to achieve it. Stanza 2. 6 days of the week it soils with its sickening poison just for paying a few bills. That's out of proportion. In the second stanza, Larkin's speaker describes the 6 days of the week that the talk or work plagues him. It soils his life, thoughts, and emotions with a sickening poison. His work, which is never defined, brings him no great benefits. It only allows him to pay a few bills, and in return he is poisoned by it. The cost and benefits are completely out of proportion. Stanza 3. Lots of folk live on their wits. Lecturers, lispers, losers, loblolly men, louts, they don't end as paupers. In the third stanza, he speculates on what it would be like to live as some others do on their wits. The following lines insert a number of examples of people that Larkin sees as living off their wits rather than depending on poisonous work. He includes lecturers who use their brain and passions to make money. Then there are lispers or one who have lisps. He feels as if they need to work even harder than those without lisps to secure work. He goes on to refer to losels or worthless people who have no redeemable character traits. They are also lowly men and louts. These are clowns and drunken people. Just as in the first two lines, he looks to this group as example of those who are worse than him but still manage to get by without the weight of the poisonous toad. The use of alliteration in these lines unite the different types of people. It connects them though sound and the visuals on the page. Stanza 4. Lots of folk live up lanes with fires in a bucket. Eats windfalls and tin sardines. They seem to like it. Larkin's speaker presents a new additional example of people who do not worry about maintaining constant work in their lives. There are many people he think who live up lanes with fire and bucket. From the speaker's perspective, these people, although they are without homes or dependable source of income and therefore food are happy, they seem to the speaker to like living around fires and eating windfalls of fruit that is knocked from trees and tins of sardines they find. Stanza 5. Their nippers have got bare feet, their unspeakable wives and are skinny as whippets, and yet no one actually starves. The people who live up lanes, as mentioned in the fourth stanza, have nippers. This is a reference to children. These children are as poor as their family members. They run around without shoes. He mentions the unspeakable or indescribable wives of these poor men and how thin they are. Through a simile, he compares them to whippets or a very small, thin breed of dogs. Though everyone seems to be starving from Larkin's perspective, no one actually starves. The speaker's tone is quite interesting in these lines, and those which preceded them. It is easy to see how these opinions come from the perspective of one who has never actually known real poverty. Stanza 6. Ah, were I courageous enough to shout stuff you your pension, but I know all too well that's the stuff that dreams are made on. In the sixth stanza, the speaker returns to his own personal feelings. He wishes that he possessed the courage to throw off the toad and shout out to the government to stuff your pension. Larkin's speaker wants to rid himself of his own dependence on government entities and subsidies. If he was able to assert his own bravery, then he would find a new freedom. That being said, he knows there is no chance of him actually taking the plunge. His liberation from monetary concerns is a pipe dream he knows he won't ever achieve. Answer 7. For something sufficiently toad-like squats in me too. Its hunkers are heavy as hard luck and cold as snow. In the seventh stanza, the speaker goes into the true nature of his problem. There is a first toad that rests on his body, representing work. There is also something sufficiently toad-like that squats in him too. This speaks to his inability to move beyond the societal rules and purposefully break away from the capitalist system of the day. He depicts the toad as being heavy as hard luck and cold as snow. Stanza 8, and will never allow me to blarney my ways to getting the fame and the girl and the money all at one sitting. The force inside him is so influential that it keeps him from getting what he wants. The toad, especially in combination, won't allow him to achieve fame or the woman or money he wants all at one time. There is nothing the speaker can do. He can't blarney or charm his way out of being a human being destined to struggle through life. Stanza 9. I don't say one body is the other, one spiritual truth, but I do say it's hard to lose either when you have both. In the final stanza, the speaker addresses the general issue that plagues his life, the two toads. He states that the one toad within him, which forces him to consider his obligation, does not fuel the exterior toad, but the fact that they exist together at the same time makes his life all the more difficult. Poetic devices, repetition. Readers should take note of the use of repetition at the beginning of lines. This is known as anaphora and occurs to great effect in the third stanza with the alliterative use of lots, lecturers, losels at the beginning of the first three lines. The repetition and alliteration continue into the stanza with four or more examples of words that begin with I. Imagery, this can be seen with the poet, uses particularly interesting descriptions, for example, with fires in a bucket, eat windfalls, and tin sardines personification. This can be seen with the poet imbues something non human with human characteristics. For example, 6 days of the week it soils with its sickening poison. Themes. The central theme of Philip Larkin's Toad is an oppressive nature of work, as symbolized by the titular toad, which represents the burden and unpleasantness of labor. The poem explores the tensions between the desire for freedom and the societal pressures to work, ultimately highlighting the inescapable nature of the struggle. The oppressive nature of work. Larkin uses the metaphor of a toad to convey the repulsive but some aspects of work, suggesting it soils and squats on one's life. The poem emphasizes the relentless and stifling nature of work that consumes time and energy. Social and personal pressures to work. The poem explores both the external social pressure to work for financial stability and the internal pressure, a second toad within the speaker that also compels him to work, yearning for freedom versus societal expectations. Larkin expresses a desire to escape the drudgery of work, but acknowledges the societal expectations and financial needs that bind him to his job. Resignation and acceptance, despite the resentment towards the societal structures that necessitate work, the poem also conveys a sense of resignation and acceptance of the inevitable, the inescapability of the truth. The poem concludes with the realization that neither the external social pressure nor the internal compulsion to work can be easily escaped, suggesting that work in some form is an inescapable part of life. The poet's internal conflict. The poem also hints at the internal conflict with the speaker, where the very dissatisfaction that drives him to write might also be linked to the toad or the compulsion to work. थैंक यू। आई होप आज की वीडियो आपको पसंद आई। कैसी लगी हमें कमेंट करके बताएं और हमें ये भी कमेंट करके बताएं कि आप आने वाले वीडियो किस टॉपिक पर देखना चाहते हैं। अगर वीडियो अच्छी लगी तो लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब टू माय चैनल। मिलते हैं कल एक और इन्फॉर्मेटिव वीडियो के साथ शाम 4 बजे। टिल देन कीप वॉचिंग एंड कीप सपोर्टिंग द सोलफुल डायरी। थैंक यू।